Well, here we go. And who's it by? Well, this guy. Why is gravity an illusion?
Gravity, of course, is something that many people have already thought about it. It's something that we see every day, and it's not like it's not existent in our every life. But what I mean by that it's an illusion is that one would eventually like to know where it comes from, an explanation.
Yeah, and where it comes from. That's because, in reality, gravity itself has never been directly detected, identified, isolated, or harnessed to see what it is or where it comes from.
Up to now, we have descriptions.
Yes, descriptions. You can only describe rock falling, water falling, something falling, time how fast it does it, and then call it gravity, when in reality it's a rock falling, water falling, or something falling, not gravity. Okay, gravity is your force, power, or thing. Idiot.
Of course, is the one famous for first writing down a theory of gravity, and he could describe why apples fall and why the moon goes around the Earth using the same basic equation for gravity. But he described it. He had to assume that gravity was there.
Yeah, what was that? He had to assume gravity was there because he made up the word and assigned it to natural phenomena, some of which he did not understand.
And then had to write down a law that described that when two masses are at a certain distance, how they attract each other. But he was also not very happy with the fact that he should just assume that these things, these objects, attract each other and without even anything in between. So if there are two masses in empty space, there's nothing that really happens between them, but still they're attracting each other. And he thought
That says a million things. Let's hear that again. There's nothing there in between. No force, no power, no thing, no current, field, wave, beam, ray, or particle of gravity, or whatever you want to call it, force of attraction. Nothing there.
anything in between. So if there are two with the fact that he should just assume that these things, these objects, attract each other and without even anything in between. So if there are two masses in empty space, there's nothing that really happens between them, but still they're attracting each other. And he thought,
no, you are assuming they are attracting each other because you just admitted there's nothing there in between. There's nothing there that we can directly detect, identify, isolate, study, and then harness. It's just somebody making up a description and assuming. You must assume because there is no gravity itself.
it was kind of mysterious and that it
Yeah.
something he would have liked to explain in a better way. So later came Einstein, and Einstein, with his theory of relativity, eventually realized that also gravity has to be described in a different way.
Yeah, they got to describe, always describe in a different way. They discarded Newton because there is no current, field, wave, beam, ray, or particle of gravity to assign as a force, power, or thing. Now Einstein's going to come along and make gravity a thing or a result of the Earth's mass curving something else that they cannot directly detect, identify, isolate, or harness, which is the alleged fabric of space-time.
Quite some years, but then eventually he wrote down a theory where
Another theory
about the space and time together. And then his explanation of what gravity would be is that there's masses which curve space and time, and then the motion of planets and of the Earth around the Moon, or the Moon around the Earth, is then described by thinking about moving in this curved space-time and how then objects are making their orbits. And the reason they go around then in circles is that that space and time itself is curved in the sense that things don't move in straight lines anymore. They go around. So that was his explanation, but he had to write down an equation for it, which again assumed that gravity is there because
Because what?
he basically wrote down that the matter curves space-time.
Yeah,
So
sweating.
in a certain way, that's still assumed that gravity is there because he basically wrote down that the matter curves space-time.
Yeah, take a deep breath. What? This guy's in the hot seat. That's because Newton or Einstein, either way you want to describe something, there is no presence or substance of gravity itself to directly detect, identify, isolate, study, and then harness, like we done with electricity and magnetism per current and field. So I do respect some honesty from this guy. They gotta assume, and then they can only describe. There is no gravity itself per current, field, wave, beam, ray, or particle.
So in a certain way, that's still a description, or what I should say is, well,
In a certain way. No, buddy, it's a description. It remains a description. Stupid.
would like to understand again why this description sort of, how you can understand it from a more basic point of view. So what I've done in my paper is try to start from a point of view where you don't assume
Assume?
gravity to be there.
Let's hear that again.
Explain it. So what I've done in my paper is try to start from a point of view where you don't assume gravity to be there. You would like to explain it.
No, sir, not explain it. Directly detect it. Identify it. I don't understand why that evades him. He knows that you cannot directly detect, identify, isolate, study, or harness gravity, be it by Newton or Einstein. He knows this. So they can only assume and then describe. And now this guy wants to get famous, writing down a new equation to describe gravity that supersedes Einstein's. And that will never be allowed, idiot.
Seeing how you can derive it from a more microscopic set of equations.
Yeah, keep looking for it. What's smaller in your universe of particles? Quarks? What are you going to say? You're going to have to produce something that possesses presence and substance that would introduce itself to matter, to interact, engage, and engulf it down, to give it a downward vector.
Gravity itself is not assumed, but then just follows from a certain logical reasoning.
Well, I'm going to leave the description to this nonsense. There is some words in here that have merit. I've recorded them for you now. There is no gravity itself. At best, it is an illusion. Gravity itself hasn't one iota of presence or substance. That's why they discarded Newton's version for Einstein, because Newton's version derived from the center of the Earth. Einstein's is outside of the Earth, the fabric of space-time that surrounds the Earth. So they've gotten a little smarter, but it all boils down to the same thing. There is not one iota of presence or substance of gravity itself to directly detect, identify, isolate, then study, then harness. Gravity truly is fake and intangible. They know it. And it is doomed, like I showed you Dr. Hoffman admits.